What's up? What's up? It's your girl Neek, and you're tuned in to Neek at Night. And we've been talking about Cassie and how fast this 24-hour lawsuit was settled. But before Cassie did her lawsuit, there was a chef in 2017 that sued Diddy for some coin because she said it was too much going on. Let's pull that up real quick. It says Diddy's ex-chef suing for sexual harassment and more, but jury won't hear the case. He was sued by his former chef for sexual misconduct and non-payment of overtime. However, the courts would not hear her case. So this right here, it says Diddy's former personal chef settles work claim suit with the rapper. So this was published in 2019, and it says Diddy's former personal chef, who says she was subjected to sexual harassment and forced to work long hours without being fully compensated for overtime, settled the lawsuit she filed against the entertainer. The attorneys in the case told a judge Tuesday. In her suit filed in May of 2017 against the 49-year-old defendant, whose real name is Sean Combs, plaintiff Cindy Ruder alleged that she often worked long hours and traveled with him, sometimes for up to 2 weeks without receiving any additional pay. She said she was hired in April of 2015 and fired in May of 2016. She said it was very hostile over there. Things was a little bit too cray-cray, and she was not here for it. It says, as an example, Ruta stated that in August of 2015, she arrived late because of traffic, and that Diddy, present with house guest Gina, remember we talked about Gina yesterday, and that's the girl that said that he stumped her, beat her, and was hitting her in the head, on the side, and in the back, and all of that. Yeah, if you didn't catch my video yesterday, make sure you catch it because we had all the tea. So she said, baby, Diddy was there and Gina was there, the last girl who alleged that he put the paws on her and all of this and all of that. So she said that she was late because of traffic and that Diddy, who was present with house guest Gina, yelled in obscenity at her, then asked, "Can't you see I have company?" Ruta says she apologized to Diddy and Gina, and that singer told her immediately to prepare breakfast and serve it in his bedroom. Ruta said that when she finished making breakfast, she brought the food to Diddy's bedroom and knocked first and then entered to set up the meal. Upon entering, I noticed Mr. Combs and his guest indisposed and engaged into hanky-panky. So she talking about, listen, he told me that I better prepare the meal. And he had Gina over there, the girl that we talked about yesterday. And she said by the time she was done with the meal, they was getting it on like Donkey Kong. And she had to be subjected. And her poor eyes had to see his big beefcake, little beefcake, or his medium-sized, pinky-sized beefcake, ramming it into Gina. And she said she was disturbed. And she had to see if he was... Now, you know he like peeing on folks. You know that he like, according to Carisha, she say that he be giving the golden showers. And according to Cassie say that Cassie said a lot. So ain't no telling what she seen when she said she walked in there and baby, she had to see him giving it on like Donkey Kong to Gina. So it says that upon entering, I noticed Mr. Combs and his guests, they was naked and getting it on. She said that in June of 2015, Diddy's manager commented on the size of her lips and that he and one of the bosses asked a number of hanky-panky oriented questions. She said one of her bosses told her to sign a confidentiality agreement as well as a promise to arbitrate any labor disputes. She says she asked if someone could review the agreement because she did not understand it, but the supervisor told her not to share the paperwork with anyone or the offer would be rescinded and she would be fired. She said that she eventually signed the agreements and that her annual salary was $91,000. So she got $91K for the year. Ruta claimed that over her objections, she was required to travel with Diddy on 2 trips to Miami and another to Joshua Tree National Park to prepare meals for him and his guests. She said she insisted when she signed the offer that she not have to travel because she had children to care for and could not be away from them for long. So the article that I was reading just wasn't given all the way because I'm like, it has to be a little bit more juicy details. So I took my butt online, had to uncover these documents, and baby, there was a lot more juicy details in the document. So the woman and the personal chef, Miss Ruta, she is suing, and this is what she settled for. Well, not suing, she sued and settled. So her complaint was for sexual harassment, a hostile work environment, failure to prevent harassment and retaliation, violation of whistleblower protection labor code, wrongful discharge in violation of public policy, retaliation, defamation, intentional infliction of emotional distress, negligent infliction of emotional distress, and failure to pay overtime. So in her lawsuit, she details how he didn't really pay her overtime. She basically talked about how, and I'm just going to summarize this part because we're going to get into the juicy stuff. So right around here, she basically talks about how she first started working for him on the weekends. He had a main chef at the time, and she would basically work Saturday and Sunday from morning to the night, and sometimes all the way up to 2 a.m. in the morning. And she was only getting $150 a day for that. She says that he made her a job offer to work throughout the week. She says the $150 was not enough to dedicate that much time, so she declined, and she continued to pretty much work with him on the weekends. So then she talked about how she started traveling with him, and he made her another job offer to travel with him when he basically had gigs outside of California and he needed a chef. So she talks about how she traveled with him and she worked for all of these days and hours, and he did not basically pay her overtime for those times that she worked outside of a normal work day. So she says after her vacation, the plaintiff returned to her employment and was required to work daily 9 a.m. and be available to work until midnight. So once she first traveled with him, she then traveled a second time with him, and she brought it to the attention of her friend, and she's like, listen, I should be getting compensated for these extra times that I'm traveling with him. And her friend basically told her that she needs to start keeping track of her hours and things like that. So she having been instructed to keep track of her hours, the plaintiff believed that she would be paid per the hours she worked and reported. However, defendant continued to pay the plaintiff an exempt employee. Plaintiff made no less than 3 or more complaints to Stacy's friend regarding additional compensation for excessive working hours. However, the plaintiff was only paid the flat rate until her termination around May 8th of 2016. In addition to her complaints regarding pay, the plaintiff also complained to Stacy's friend about inappropriate conduct and harassing confrontations while she worked. During her employment, plaintiff worked as a chef, and she also served to Mr. Combs and his guests the meals she prepared for Mr. Combs and his guests. The plaintiff was regularly summoned by Mr. Combs to prepare and serve entrees and appetizers to him and his guests while Mr. Combs and or his guests were engaged in or immediately following hanky-panky activity. She says on no less than one occasion when plaintiff was summoned by Mr. Combs to serve him a post-coital meal, as plaintiff entered the room, Mr. Combs was naked and made comments about his body to her and ultimately asked the visibly uncomfortable chef if she was attracted to or if she liked his naked body. So she's like, listen, I came to serve him food, and this fool got his eggplant dangling around, and he got the nerve to ask me if I like what I see. Okay, and then it says, on no less than one other occasion, while the plaintiff was in the kitchen preparing a meal, a male house guest of Mr. Combs approached her in the nude and asked her to look at his eggplant and admire his genitals after he had engaged in hanky-panky with another house guest. The plaintiff was mortified and she complained to Stacey Friend. The plaintiff made multiple complaints to Stacey Friend about these and other instances where she was exposed to activity and approached with conversations of hanky-panky nature. The plaintiff alleges that because of her complaints regarding pay and her complaints about the regular exposure to hanky-panky activity and harassing conversations, she was lured into a situation where she could be accused of theft and ultimately terminated. She says that it was known by the house personnel that Iris, the executive house cleaner, regularly salvaged items discarded by Mr. Combs at his residence. In 2016, Iris approached her with a watch that Iris said that she found in the garbage can. So the housekeeper came up to the chef and said, "Do you want this watch since it was thrown away in the trash by Puffy?" And the chef looked at the watch. She liked the watch. She said yes. And the housekeeper told her to take it. In the days following, the chef was accused of theft and told that she would not be prosecuted if she returned the watch and signed a waiver of all rights and claims against the defendant as they relate to her employment by the defendant. The plaintiff returned the watch. However, she refused to sign the waiver of rights and claims that the defendant ultimately terminated her on or around May 8th. So basically what she's saying is they set her up. So she's like, listen, I'm making all of these complaints about eggplants coming in, seeing y'all do hanky-panky, having to serve y'all after these rendezvous and things like that. I am not happy with y'all working me day in and day out, the morning to the wee hours of the night, and I'm only getting paid a measly $150 a day or whatever. I'm not really getting paid enough. So she was making these little complaints or whatever, and she says they came up with a plan. That's what she's saying in so many words. They came up with a plan to get her up out of there. The housekeeper told her to get the watch because it was thrown away. She said, okay, I like the watch. She took the watch, and they said, if you bring the watch back, we won't prosecute you as long as you sign a waiver saying that you won't sue us or anything like that. And she said, bump that. I'm not about to sign that I won't sue y'all. So then, boom, you get terminated. That's basically what that's saying in summary. So it says, throughout the plaintiff's employment, she was misclassified as exempt and not paid overtime for work performed over 8 hours per day, 40 hours per week, and she was not paid double time for work performed over 12 hours per day, and was not provided with accurate itemized wage statements, and was not provided all wages earned upon her termination. Moreover, the plaintiff alleges that the defendants retaliated against her and ultimately fired her because of her ongoing complaints regarding unhealthy conditions, including excessive hours without the required compensation and the ongoing pervasive sexual harassment by the defendant Combs and his house guests. Additionally, on or around May 8, 2018, after the plaintiff made a series of complaints regarding the excessive hours and ongoing sexual harassment, the plaintiff was given a watch, then accused of theft, ultimately fired based on the untruthful accusation of theft. On or around May 4th, 2017, the plaintiff filed a complaint with the Department of Fair Employment and Housing and obtained a right to sue notice, which was thereafter served on all defendants via U.S. certified mail. It says that she realleges all of the allegations contained in the preceding paragraphs of this complaint as though fully set forth hereon, and she was an employee and blah, 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 blah. It says, because she was a woman, the plaintiff was subjected to unwanted harassing conduct, including but not limited to verbal harassment, such as obscene language, demeaning comments, slurs, or visual harassment, including but not limited to exposure to offensive situations or objects, or unwanted sexual advances expressed or communicated through interpersonal relations in the workplace, which were outside of the scope of necessary job performance and instead for personal gratification. The harassing conduct was severe and pervasive and not of a type of necessary for the management of the employer's business or supervision of the plaintiff's jobs. A reasonable woman in the plaintiff's circumstances would have considered the work environment to be hostile or abusive. The plaintiff considered the work environment to be hostile or abusive, and it says a supervisor engaged in the conduct and the defendants or its supervisors or agents knew of or should have known of the conduct and failed to take immediate and appropriate corrective action. The plaintiff was harmed. The conduct was a substantial factor in causing the plaintiff's harm. And it says the claimant is entitled to recover past and future economic loss, including lost earnings, and past and future non-economic loss, including humiliation, pain, and suffering. The claimant is entitled to recover punitive damages pursuant to Civil Code 3294. And it says that the plaintiff realleges and incorporates by reference all of the allegations contained, blah, 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 blah. All right, so this is pretty much the lawsuit. She's basically saying it was a hostile work environment. She did not like the conduct. She did not like having to serve these people after these hanky-panky parties. And she did not appreciate being set up to be fired after she said she was not cool with what they had going on, and she did not like what they was putting down. So this is pretty much the lawsuit. If you want to read through slowly, all you can do is pause and read. I'm going to slowly basically scroll through so that if anybody wants to read it, you guys can pause and read. But most of this is just like a repeat of the main points. So let's see. Yeah, it's just like her re-alleging the same thing for different things. All right, so it says, in effect, during the pay period, corresponding number of hours. It says, as a result of defendant's unlawful conduct, the plaintiff has suffered injury. The absence of wage statements has delayed timely challenge to defendant unlawful pay practices. All right, so it says, blah, 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 da, 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 da. Yeah, it's just like re-alleging the things that she already alleged in different ways. It says the illegal conduct alleged herein is continuing, and there is no indication that defendants will not continue such activity into the future. The plaintiff alleges that if the defendants are not enjoined from the conduct set forth in this complaint, defendant will continue to retaliate against the employees and will continue to fail to pay all wages earned, will continue to require employees to work during rest periods without providing appropriate compensation in lieu thereof, and will continue to fail to pay and to avoid paying appropriate taxes, insurance, and unemployment withholdings. So she's like, listen, if y'all don't give me no money for this, they're going to keep on doing people like this, and we need to make an example. So that is pretty much it. Y'all let me know what y'all think about it, and I'll see you guys on the next video.